Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and it is Sunday, so we are doing breaches of the week. But honestly, I actually recorded this on Saturday because Sunday is Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all you moms out there. So if I missed something huge, that's why it's simply not here. And so with that, let's dive in because in data breach news, it has been absolutely insane. So thank you very much to Jason Dance, Jacqueline Wolf, and Nora Boyd for sending me a good chunk of this information. With that, let's dive right in and revisit the classic of Move It. That's right, last year's massive, most prolific data breach is still rearing its ugly head. And this past week, global insurance group NStar had to go ahead and declare thanks to Move It as well. So never a good sign. If you're still running Move It, I don't know why. Moving on. Let's talk about the Office of Judicial Administration at the state of Kansas. About 150,000 people who've had some form of interaction with the Kansas court system might have had their data breached in an October cyber attack that took the judicial system in that state offline for weeks. Now, the Office of Judicial Administration this past Monday announced findings from a third-party investigation into this attack. The office said information accessed during the attack came from files given to the office through appellate court litigation, applications to Kansas Bar, and other administrative records. So information such as Social Security, driver's license, government IDs, payment card information, tax ID numbers, passports, and health insurance policy information may have all been accessed. And so there you go. So if you have anything to do with the court system, including probably getting a speeding ticket during that time in the state of Kansas, you might want to check in. Moving on. Let's do our mini segment right out of the gate here, or almost right out of the gate, basically entitled, If You Just Paid for Cybersecurity, You Wouldn't Be Getting Sued, You Wouldn't Have Your Reputation Damaged. And we are starting with JP Morgan. I literally just talked about this data breach, and it seems like now we are in an era where when a breach happens, the lawsuits immediately start, which is why I started this segment. But on the heels of last week's news of their data breach that exposed 451,000 plan participants' personal information, a participant of that retirement plan has now filed a suit. According to the lawsuit filed in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York on May 3rd, former Long Island Railroad employee Benjamin Valentine's personal information, which he entrusted to J.P. Morgan, basically was, quote, targeted, compromised, and unlawfully accessed due to the data breach, end quote. So we'll see where this goes, but this will be one of many lawsuits, as I'm sure we're going to see with JP Morgan. I'll keep you up to date on that one. Moving on, Dropbox. This is an interesting one as well because I just mentioned them literally again last week. They failed to protect hundreds of thousands of personal information that was exposed in an April data breach, according to a federal class action. Stephen Guffrey alleged that Dropbox didn't implement adequate and reasonable data security procedures, encrypt sensitive information, or provide prompt and accurate notice of the breach. Information exposed included emails, usernames, phone numbers, hashed passwords, multi-factor authentication information, and all of that. Now, this, for the record, was part of Dropbox Sign. And so if you're using Dropbox Sign, heads up to you. I talked about it last week. Y'all got breached. Moving on, Barry Dunn. I talked about them last week as well. This is an accounting firm based out of Portland, Maine, and they're facing lawsuits from 9 different people, which means we'll see class action sooner than later. And the lawsuit claims that, or I should say various lawsuits claim that names and social security numbers of about 1.1 million people were exposed in this breach. So obviously not a good look there as well. And finally, we've got Gifted Healthcare. They agreed to a class action lawsuit settlement to resolve their 2021 data breach. Now, the settlement benefits, I cannot talk today, the settlement benefits individuals who received a data breach notification from Gifted Healthcare regarding a breach back in 2021. Now, under the terms, class members can receive up to $400 in reimbursement for ordinary breach expenses, such as bank fees, credit card costs, etc., etc. Class members can also receive up to $4,000 in reimbursement for extraordinary expenses, such as losses that occurred as a result of identity theft or fraud. In addition to this, all class members are eligible for 3 years of credit monitoring and identity theft protection. You have until September 16th of 2024 to submit your claim. So if you were caught up in Gifted Healthcare's data breach, go get paid. Moving on, let's talk about Centennial Bank. Now, according to their website, Centennial Bank's network was shortly accessed without permission in April of 2023. That's right, we're going back a year plus. Though no impact or access to customer transactional systems were reportedly identified, certain files were copied from their system between April 6th and 7th of last year. Data is possibly names, social security, government issued IDs, financial accounts, credit debit information, health insurance information, medical information, username, email, and password, and other personal information as well. So if you are a Centennial Bank customer, go check in. Moving on, let's talk about Illuminate. This is back from 2022. And we are still seeing disclosures. Illuminate was a big one in the education field, and the New York City Department of Education, or DOE, is the one that is talking about this. Now, they initially reported that about 800,000 current and former students were affected, when they were notified of this vendor. But a recent letter that to affected former and current student provides a link to an updated security notice on their website that says, quote, approximately 387,000 current and former NYCPS students were newly identified as being affected by Illuminate's data security incident in 2022. Now, a DOE rep said the figure is more like 381,000. Another 94,000 current and former public school students also started receiving a second notice because Illuminate identified, quote, additional information of theirs that was affected by the 2022 data security incident. So, heads up to you if you have anything to do with the New York City Department of Education. All y'all got hit. Moving on, let's talk about Surety HR. On May 7, 2024, they filed notice with Massachusetts after discovering that confidential information was basically subject to unauthorized access. We're talking names, social security, and financial account information. Surety HR has begun sending out letters as well. Moving on, Blue Bonnet Trails, specifically the Blue Bonnet Trails Community Services. On April 22nd of this year, they filed also with Massachusetts after discovering an unauthorized party was able to access their email infrastructure. Apparently, this attacker was able to access sensitive information, including names, dates of birth, social security numbers, driver's license numbers, state IDs, financial account numbers, medical health information, health insurance information, full access credentials, government issued identification numbers, and a whole lot more. And so they've begun sending out notices as well. Heads up, Blue Bonnet Trails. Anything, if you're related to them in any way, shape, or form. Moving on. Redwood Coast Regional Center on May 3rd, they filed with Health and Human Services when they found unauthorized activity in their computer network. We're talking names, address, phone numbers, email, dates of birth, social security, driver's license, state ID, financial account information, medical and health information as well, not to mention insurance information. And so the Redwood Coast Regional Center is sending out notices. Moving on. The Kennedy Collective. So nearly 800 people were affected by a recent cyber attack on the Kennedy Collective, according to officials. In an email statement, Development and Communications Director Liz Benyon said, a notification to employees, quote, states that personal health information, social security, and driver's license information may have been accessed. A large majority of the affected individuals had only their personal health information compromised, end quote. Benyon also said the organizations gave credit monitoring services to those that were affected. So, if you have anything to do with Kennedy Collective for all your collective Kennedy needs, whatever those are, heads up. Moving on, telehealth and medical transportation company DocGo. They reported data breach in an SEC filing on May 7th. They said they identified a cybersecurity incident in which consumers' protected health information was accessed regarding their U.S. ambulance transportation business. So that's all I know at this time. Heads up, DocGo patients. Moving on, American Renal Associates. On April 29, they filed also with Health and Human Services Office of Civil Rights because an unauthorized party was able to access confidential information. And I do not have a listing of what that is, but obviously if they're going to HHS, it's healthcare information because as they are a healthcare association. So American Renal Associates, heads up to you, patients. Moving on, Dental Group of Amarillo. I'm assuming that's going to be down deep in the heart of Texas. Now, on May 9th, they basically started to have reports emerging that a data breach had happened at essentially their organization. Now, in statements about the breach, DGA explained that the incident resulted in an unauthorized party being able to access sensitive information. We're talking names, social security, driver's license, address, phone numbers, email addresses, and health information. DGA, or the Dental Group of Amarillo, Texas, is reporting as well and sending out notifications. Moving on, Inland Physician Billing Services. It's like healthcare crazy this week. So on April 27th, they filed notice with Health and Human Services due to unauthorized access. Inland Physician Billings explained that sensitive information was accessed. I do not have a listing of that. They are sending out notices as well. Let's head on across the pond to Europe and talk about the European Parliament. Yes, the entire European Parliament, because on April 25th, following assessments by the Parliament cybersecurity specialists, it was confirmed that People, and that's in all caps, the word People, this is an external application based in Luxembourg and created to facilitate the hiring procedures for temporary staff, experienced a data breach. Now, the Parliament's temporary staff may include interns, consultants, contract agents, or assistants. Recipients were informed of this, and so heads up to you if you've been hired by the European Parliament in the last couple of years. Moving on, let's talk about Ashley Home Stores. There's an Ashley Furniture, I want to say like 30 minutes from my house, 20 minutes from my house, something like that. Anyway, their parent group, the Dufresne's Spencer Group, has had to declare, and on May 9th, they filed with Texas after discovering an unauthorized party was able to access their IT network. In this notice, the Dufresne's Spencer Group explained that the incident resulted in an unauthorized party being able to access consumer-sensitive information, which includes their names, social security numbers, financial account information, medical information, and driver's license numbers. Upon completing investigation, Dufresne's Spencer began sending out data breach notification letters to all individuals whose information was affected as well. Moving on, and this one I really hate to talk about, but I got to talk about it because hopefully it's not true and you'll know what I'm saying soon. If you're a fellow cybersecurity professional like myself, I hate to say it, but we got to talk about Zscaler. That's right, the large infrastructure provider for secure remote access as well as other things as well. Now, Intel Broker, the guy that basically dumps everything, or group, I should say, that dumps everything out, possible group, we don't know actually, just Intel Broker, has offered to sell, quote, confidential and highly critical logs packed with credentials, end quote, including SMTP or Simple Mail Transport Protocol access, PAuth access, and SSL passkeys and certificates for a total price of $20,000 US in cryptocurrency. Now, Zscaler announced launching an investigation shortly after learning about these claims. A few hours after the investigation started, it announced it has found no evidence of customer or production environments being compromised. Now, in the latest update, the company's confirmed that its production, customer, and corporate environments were not impacted. So this is one to watch, because if you've got Intel Broker, who has legitimately sold actual breach data in the past and done it pretty consistently, if they really did get Zscaler data, the question is, where did they get it? And we are not talking about like, oh, like here's like outsourcing HR for like payroll for Zscaler. We're talking about like tokens, passkeys, certificates, those kinds of things. That's kind of unusual. So we're going to see what happens with this one. And obviously we're all hoping, that Zscaler is not hit. They're a known good company. So heads up to you and Zscaler. Best of luck. It's never fun. And if this is a hoax, that's seriously not cool either. Moving on. Let's talk about Evolution Payroll, because on May 7th, they filed with Massachusetts after discovering an unauthorized party had gotten into an employee's email account. We're talking names and social securities are being declared. So with that, Evolution Payroll is sending out notices as well. Heads up to Robeson County in the state of North Carolina. Authorities continue to investigate circumstances behind an April data breach that led to confidential files being posted on the dark web. Several county departments on April 17 were impacted by the cyber attack, but officials said services to the public would continue. Now, here's the interesting part. The state of North Carolina actually prohibits state and local government agencies from paying ransoms connected to cyber attacks. This is the first law or such law in the entire United States. So we're going to see what happens here, because Robeson County may not be able to get their data back, and hopefully they've got good backups. We're going to basically be stress testing the law in real time, which kind of sucks, but it's going to be interesting to see. So I'm going to be watching that one as well. Moving on, let's talk about the country of El Salvador, the whole dang country. Now, more than 5.1 million records of personal details, including high-definition facial photos labeled with the individual's El Salvador national ID document number, known as DUI, no relation to what it means here in the United States, has been made free on the dark web, according to our security. So the criminal responsible for the data dump appears to have attempted to sell the breached personal information and I guess was unsuccessful. So the number and nature of the records has prompted speculation on social media, so buyer beware there, that the breach was from the national digital wallet known as Chivo. Now, the details that we've got are full name, date of birth, telephone number, and email and physical address, in addition to national ID information and selfie photos as well. The number of records represents approximately 80% of El Salvador's total population, and almost all of its population adult age or higher. So that's obviously a huge issue. So good luck, country of El Salvador. And moving on, let's go to the country of Scotland, and we are talking about the NHS, or National Health Service of Scotland, because attackers who hit the NHS Dumfries and Galloway have published a huge amount of data from that hit. Now, after the attack in March, data relating to a small number of patients was released. The attackers threatened that more would follow. In a statement issued the other day, NHS Dumfries and Galloway confirmed that the data accessed by the cyber criminals was now published on the dark web. Quote, a significant amount of data, including patient and staff identifiable information. So heads up to you if you have anything to do with Dumfries and Galloway, NHS, and I'm guessing if you live in the area, you probably do. Good luck. Moving on, let's talk about MedStar Health back here in the United States. They're saying personal information of about 184,000 people was likely hacked when an outsider accessed emails and files belonging to 3 of their employees. MedStar Health reported that it alerted 183,709 patients that their data was exposed. They filed with Health and Human Services. We're talking patient names, mailing address, dates of birth, date of service, provider names, and health insurance information all cut up in this as well. Moving on. Keeping in the United States, let's talk about the large nonprofit and Catholic health system, Ascension Health, because they said on May 8th, quote, we detected unusual activity on select technology network systems, which we now believe is due to a cybersecurity event. At this time, we continue to investigate the situation. We responded immediately, initiated our investigation, and activated our remediation efforts. Ascension says, for the record, they have 134,000 associates, 35,000 affiliated providers, and 140 hospitals that they operate. So this is going to be a massive one if it really breaks. I'm going to keep you up to date on that one as well. Moving on, let's go over to the United Kingdom and talk about the Ministry of Defense. The personal information for an unknown number of those serving in the UK military has been accessed due to a significant data breach. Now, the attack targeted a payroll system used by the Ministry of Defense, which included names and bank details of both current and some past armed forces members. In a very small number of cases, the data may have included a personal address. It's unknown who's behind the attack or what the data may be used for. It's basically being described as, quote, personal HMRC style information, end quote, and relates to current and former members of the Royal Navy, Army, Royal Air Force, and other branches over a period of several years. The system was managed by an external contractor, and basically no operational Ministry of Defense data has been obtained. So that's really good in terms of, obviously, security for the United Kingdom. Now, it is understood that the MOD has taken immediate action, taken the system offline, the investigation is underway, etc., etc. So heads up to you if you are basically a member of the Ministry of Defense in the United Kingdom. Moving on. Back to the United States, let's talk about Dell Computers, one of the largest computer manufacturers in the world, if not the largest. I'm not sure who's the largest, but they're up there. Now, an attacker claims to have 49 million Dell customer records and spoke to TechCrunch, where I'm getting this information, that he brute forced an online company portal and scraped customer data, including physical addresses, directly from Dell's servers. TechCrunch was able to verify that the scraped data does match personal information of Dell customers. This past Thursday, Dell sent an email to customers saying that the computer maker had experienced a data breach, and we're talking customer names and physical addresses as well as Dell order information. Quote, "We believe there's not a significant risk to our customers given the type of information involved," end quote. That is according to Dell in an email in an attempt to downplay the impact of the breach, implying that it does not consider customer addresses to be quote unquote highly sensitive information. It's always a good look, Dell, when you're kind of putting your customers down when you get their stuff breached. Now, the threat actor says that he registered with several different names on a particular Dell portal as a quote-unquote partner. Now, a partner refers to a company that resells Dell products and services, and after Dell approved his partner accounts, basically he said that he brute forced customer service tags, which were made of 7 digits of only numbers and consonants. He also said that, quote, any kind of partner, end quote, could access the portal that he was granted to. So obviously not a good look, especially since Dell has SecureWorks as they offer cybersecurity services and monitoring. So hopefully, Dell, you'll get over it, but you kind of don't want to insult us while you're doing it. Moving on, let's talk about our finalies because we've got 2 finalies for you today. And I think these are really interesting, and we've got to go back to the 2020 U.S. presidential election for basically a data breach of voter information. Now, I've talked about these things in the past, and for you new listeners out there, because my long-term listeners and followers know I am basically politically agnostic. I don't care what you believe. These is simply the facts as we know them. A former township clerk and her attorney will face charges in the state of Michigan over allegations of a voter data breach related to the 2020 election. That is according to Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel this past Wednesday. Former Adams Township Clerk Stephanie Scott and her private attorney Stephanie Lambert allowed, quote, an unauthorized computer examiner access to voter data, including non-public voter information concerning the 2020 general election, end quote. That is Nessel's office, basically in a news release. Now, Scott faces 6 charges, 5 felonies and a misdemeanor, including concealing or withholding a voting machine and using a computer to commit a crime. Lambert faces 3 felony charges, this is the attorney, including using a computer to commit a crime. It is unclear how they have pled at this time, according to publications. If they have, I don't know yet. So with that, Scott, aged 52, and Lambert, 42, have touted conspiracy theories about the results of the 2020 presidential election in Michigan. And so we're going to see where this goes, but obviously this is a very sensitive data breach, and given the backdrop of the 2024 election, it's important that we talk about these things. Again, don't care what you believe. Nevertheless, voting is a sacred right here in the United States, and voter data should be protected, and I would hope we can all agree on that. Moving on. Our last finally for today is artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence is increasing security challenges, at least according to cybersecurity experts, myself included in that list. Now, the AI Security and Governance Report released by Amuda reveals the attitudes of data experts towards artificial intelligence. The report found that a majority of data experts, 80%, agree that AI is increasing data security challenges. And so there's a range of data security concerns within artificial intelligence. And so with that, let's go through the numbers, because 55% say the possibility that sensitive information may be inadvertently exposed by a large language model like ChatGPT is their greatest concern. And that is obviously a huge issue, because people do not realize, just regular users, the ramifications of basically sending something in a ChatGPT to get an answer to fix a problem where you're giving away intellectual property. That has happened to Samsung and other large corporations as well, let alone smaller corporations that think this is just some crazy good Google or something along those lines. Now, 52% are worried that sensitive information may be exposed due to large language models through user prompts. We've seen tests of ChatGPT, for example, where researchers have been able to have it start spitting out randomly personally identifiable information when it shouldn't have been doing that. 52% cite the possibility of AI attacks via threat actors, and 57% report an increase in AI-driven attacks in the last year. I've talked about this ad nauseum here and on the radio show and everywhere else, that essentially what we are going to have in the future of cybersecurity is artificial intelligence fighting artificial intelligence. That is basically going to be trench warfare for the future of cybersecurity. So I completely agree with that. Now, Now, here's the thing. Although the report found concerns about AI, it also found that many data leaders, 85% of them, are confident in their organization's data security strategies and believe that they will keep pace with evolving AI technologies. Now, I'm not necessarily as confident as they are, only because I've written articles on this for Forbes and others, where we are looking at a cybersecurity hiring shortage. And while we are pumping out a whole bunch of cybersecurity professionals from colleges and universities, there's a huge experience gap, especially as the most experienced in cybersecurity essentially are looking to retire sooner than later because we're burning out. Like, again, I've written articles for this. You can go Google them, just my name in Forbes, and you'll find it. So that's very interesting, but we'll move on because respondents are using AI also in the following ways. Advanced encryption for 28%. I think that's great. That needs to increase. Anomaly detection for 14% also needs to increase. Security app development as well needs to increase at 14%. Phishing detection at 13% also needs to increase. All these need to increase. And security awareness training at 13% as well. AI is also being deployed to defend sensitive information, with 40% of data leaders stating that the most promising advancement is AI-powered threat detection systems. Yes, I am very, very excited for that, and we've been leveraging deep learning, artificial intelligence, and behavioral control for threat detection here for years, and quite frankly, it's vastly better than traditional antiviral solutions. So, with that, the world is going to be AI. I've talked about this ad nauseum on my YouTube channel, SoundCloud, everywhere I post, the radio show, all those kinds of things. It's not going away, but we've got to make sure that we have good user behavior controls, acceptable use policies, all that kind of stuff around it. Otherwise, we're just asking for it. So with that, those were your breaches of the week. Were you affected? Let me know. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private. Thanks, everybody.